Greetings, my friends, and welcome to How to Use EasyCuffs, brought to you by tinypandora.com. I'm starting today with some scrap from a cane that I made. This is the cane. You see it above in its simple form and then made into a square. And I wanted squares so that I could lay them out into a strip for a bracelet. That's what we're going to do. I've got my template. It's an 8-inch long template. And the standard size of a cuff is 6 inches. And the reason that the templates are a little bit larger is because as you go around with your design, it gets a little bit longer because it gets a little bit thicker. So that's why we have them at 8 inches. Make sure you always have enough to wrap around your cuff, no matter how high or low it is in thickness. I'm going to place that onto my form. The forms are stainless steel, reusable. We don't leave them in. I've heard of people leaving them in, but that's not really what we do in this kind of a project. I'm making my base for my bracelet, and I'm not worried that it's scrap because I'm going to put an inside strip and, of course, our decorative outside strip, which is our cane. I like to pinch the edge like this and forms kind of a graceful angle when you attach the other strips. You can leave them perfectly flat if you like, and I'll show you that later. But this is one way to do it to achieve a soft arched effect on the edge. I'm just smoothing it, and the heat of my hands is making it pretty even. And once I've done that, I'm sticking it on this silicone thing. That's a little mold I got. It's by Plaid, and it's at Michael's. And I really like that mold. I like all the molds I've got from Plaid. But today, I'm using it as a soft place to set my bracelet so that if I put any pressure on it, the metal doesn't cut through, the clay. So it's a really handy thing to have when you're working on bangles or cuffs, to have a soft place to lay it so we don't have any little accidents. I'm just going around the edges. I'm making sure it's as symmetrical as I can get it. Because, we always think we're going to sand things and we're going to level them out later, and that's just so hard. So here we go with the cane. I'm going to cut a few slices. They're over an inch. I think it's about 1.25 inches, so I don't need too many out of that one. But I'm going to cut them about the thickness of a dime. And try to make them as symmetrical as you can. I'll show you how to fix it. If you have high spots, it's okay. With cane cutting, it's a practice thing, isn't it? One day I was making a sandwich and I was cutting this cheese and meat, and my husband Spikey walks by and he says, "Oh my God, that looks like a machine did it." And it was at that very second that I realized I could finally cut cane, because I had done it so many times that now it was muscle memory for me to pick up a blade and slice through something evenly. So I tell you that terribly interesting story. So anyway, here's my squares, and I'm going to line them up. And you think, oh yeah, I'll just line them up. Well, go ahead and take your time, because there's subtle differences between the sides of these. I try to get them as symmetrical and perfectly even as I can, but, it's never going to happen. So check out your motifs and you'll see these little tells, and it's really fun. It's really interesting. You see this a little hook or a little bend that is in one side and isn't in the other, and then you'll know it's going to match. So we talked a little bit about the slices not being perfect. Well, they're never going to be perfect. So you take your flexible blade, and this is, by the way, the only time I have ever used a flexible blade is for this one function. I never use these kind of blades to cut cane or anything because they're too floppy. You can ask Donna Cato. She agrees with me, and she's the queen of canes. So anyway, my darlings, you take your flexible blade, and you see how you can kind of shimmy it along and shave off pieces. You can feel them with your fingertips, and you know that what you got to do there. You're going to find them here and there. I found one more. Little guy hiding. The reason you do this now, though, guys, is because you're not going to want to sand it until your hands fall off. You're going to want to have it as smooth and flat and even as you can beforehand. Okay? That's a good tip. You've got to listen to old Pandora about that because I'm not big on sanding and I'm not very good at it. So I'm going to take my template. You can use your square benders, your other tools for that, but your templates are already out, so take them and make some nice straight edges, as straight as you can. We're still going to trim this up a little bit more. And I'm smoothing it down with some parchment. So it's starting to cohese a little bit. Is cohese a verb? I think it should be if it's not. And now I'm going to trim off the edges after I roll it. This rolling thing's kind of important. It really knits it together so that when you bend it, the little joins don't open up on you. Those are hard to fix once you're applying it to a baked form, okay? It's not easy. So when you are putting it on there, you're going to want to make sure that it's really stuck together, and that's what this phase does. I'm not sure if I mentioned that base, I baked the bases for 45 minutes. That's what's going on right now while I'm doing this other stuff. I don't know if I said anything about that, but okay. So you have your strip, and I've since I rolled over it a little bit, that gave me extra to cut off the edges and make sure it's really pretty even. And there's my baked form, and I just used my thumbnails to take it off the form. You know, it made a really nice crackling effect, but I can't use the original sound on these videos because I work so slowly that real time doesn't work for me for video. As a matter of fact, it took me 47 minutes to lay that cane out on that strip. That's just obnoxious, isn't it? But when I went to edit it, I realized I had been doing that for 47 minutes. It seemed like 5 minutes. So I've got my liquid clay there. You can use Bacon Bond if you want. It's kind of thick and goopy. It's good for heavy duty stuff like fairy houses and stuff. But I like to use liquid clay for this because, the Bacon Bond is so heavy duty that it's kind of hard to move it around. So you're making sure that you've got a nice thin coat of your adhesive, your liquid clay, or your PVA glue, whatever you got. That inside strip there is just a textured piece of clay. I made it on a number 3, so it kind of split out on me a little bit, but I had extra, so I'm saving it for something else there. But your inside strip can be anything you want it to be. It's really fun. You can make silk screen stuff, or you can make a whole new cane, which I did originally in this video, but I didn't like the way it turned out, so I'm not showing it to you. It's okay. It just doesn't go with with that cane. I'll make another one. I'll show you pretty soon. So I baked that with the strip inside. So this is like a 3-bake guy, right? You bake the base, and then you bake the inside strip in there so that you can handle it without smashing your texture. Okay, and then you're going to put your outside strip on here. So you guys all get that. You don't have to worry about that. You're all pretty good crafters. I talk to you night and day on Facebook and stuff, and I feel like I know you all. Okay, so I've got this on here. Did you see that I got my liquid clay on the edges? That's very important because I'm going to bend this over the edge. So that original strip that I had carefully pinched down the edges of? That's helpful for this type of thing. But when I remade the base, because as I told you, I didn't like the inside I put on it. When I remade the base, I just left it flat so you could see that too. I didn't do it the exact same way. And now I'm just using the heat of my hands to bend this strip over the edge. And this is kind of an important step. I won't even tell you how many minutes this took me in real life. I cut out huge chunks of this because really, who could watch it? But what I'm doing now is pressing it down, making sure there's no air pockets, making sure it's even on both sides. I've got my little rubbery mold thing there to lean on so I don't have to always hold it up. And I can press downward knowing it's not going to, tear through the clay. That's pretty thick. You don't have to make your strip that thick. I just like a chunky bracelet like this because I don't have to put any hardware on it. You'll see that. You can make them thin, and actually they're quite strong. but you have to add hardware if they're thin. Otherwise, they're too floppy and they want to open. When they're a little heavier like this one is, it just stays right in place on your wrist. You're going to like that. So I've got my fine detail knife there, available at tinypandora.com. And I've trimmed it off, and it's going in the oven. And I thought I'd stop and show you the EasyCuffs. You know, it's supposed to be about EasyCuffs, but I'm like the world's worst salesperson because I didn't even show you that. But they come in all these different sizes: 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, and 1 1/4 inch. And then the templates, all match up with them. And I think it's much easier because, especially when you're working with cane like I am, I have to see what the heck I'm doing. And Spikey used to work in a wood factory, and he used to bring me home slats of wood to use for this purpose, even back in 2010 when I started. But I couldn't see through them, so when I'm working with cane, I wasn't sure if it was centered up or not. So eventually I got a hold of a lucite factory, and I had these made. You can stack up strips of this and make a really interesting dome on your cuff. You might like to do that. Okay, so here's my Tiny Pandora UV curing deck. I thought it up myself, and I make them myself. And what I do is I put them in the light instead of using the deck that they give you, which is crap. So here you see I've got a coat of deep shine on here. I did video it, but something happened to it, so I'm going to show you the second coat. It's the same thing. Now, once you put your first coat on, be sure you only you leave one side dry, okay? Leave one edge dry so you can lay it down and cure it. And that's what I did, and then I sanded it just very lightly, because if you feel any texture at all on there, you can just give it a very, very light, perfunctory kind of sanding, and then put your second coat on, and it'll take care of any rough feeling, any kind of texture that you might not want on there. If it's perfectly smooth, don't worry about it. You don't have to sand it. So now I'm doing that last side, see? Because I've got one side that's already cured, and that one side I didn't do yet. Okay, so just put that on there. Get it up to the edge. It's a little trickier with that textured interior strip, but I just love that texture. I keep my brush in foil like this. That way I don't have to clean it. It just stays moist and it stays nice. And then you pop your Tiny Pandora curing deck into your light, and you got a bracelet. So I hope you like it. Thanks for coming.